Алло? Да, говорите, да. Да, стрим платный, да. Что? За 100 рублей заказать фильм, игру и 10 эсэфов, блядь? Вы не туда попали, до свидания. Громко или нормально?
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Да ты шо, нихуя себе.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Я только сел так, чтобы просто смотреть и слушать. Да ёбаный твой рот, блядь. Так. Игра громко, нет?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Скоро будет тильт. Что ты ее 2 месяца проходил?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Это постанова, нахуй нам не надо.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here, it's, left. Oh, no. No, it's to the right. My mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh, dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Вася, у тебя одна дверь осталась. Открой ее, блядь, просто и все.
Now, let's see. We went down, right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Да ладно, ебать!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story. I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything? Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? No, I'm done. We're leaving it up to the line from now on. You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay, now if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood. Cut the music, go back and look at that fern. Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Согласен, пойдем направо. Да. В эту сторону должно быть трешка плюс на покушать.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go
Бля.
wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Играл ли я в супер какой-то там что-то там? Первый раз слышу название.
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine. A choice. We get to make a decision.
Давай.
From here, the story is in our control. How important, we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits. Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait, you know. I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you... All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply
Это
missed a
четвертый
memo.
перезапуск, где он забывает, да, про этот. Или как? Оно все там, то, что написано, оно живое или нет?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
То есть это четвертый перезапуск, да? Так что мне думать? Я вопрос задал, ебать. Типа, хочу ли я, блядь, по сценарию играть?
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Чего?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Димон, я один из 4 еблана.
Привет, дядь Дим, у меня такая проблема. С незнакомыми людьми не могу нормально вести диалог, и все это очень неловко. Особенно с девочками. Есть вариант, как это контрить?
Донатить, браток, донатить, донатить, еще раз донатить, да. Да я, блядь, бро. Хуй знает. С возрастом, наверное, эта хуйня проходит. Ну как с возрастом? когда будешь
And so he began to fantasize
старше
about his
с
own job.
18 или сколько
First,
тебе
he
сейчас.
imagined that one day
Они
while at
знакомые
work, he
людьми, а
stepped up
чё-
from his
зачем с
desk
ними
to
общаться?
realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had
Зачем,
suddenly vanished
зачем
off the
общаться
face
с
of the
незнакомыми
earth.
людьми?
The
Общайся со
thought
знакомыми.
excited
Я
him
не
terribly.
инвалид. Блять, мне нравится эта хуйня, типа, никогда я тебе дам совет, который ты должен будешь пользоваться им всю жизнь. Никогда не бери трубку с незнакомого номера, вот когда тебе звонят. Вот тебе позвонили, незнакомый номер. Никогда не бери трубку. Почему? Потому что это могут быть знакомые, блядь. Сука.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Блядь, это тип вчера или когда говорит, я сейчас поброюся и пойду что-то там жить жизнь, а вы тут сидите в компьютер играете и в конце запятая думаете, блядь.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room
Я
with
с этого
monitors and
поброюсь,
mind
что-то орал
controls.
пиздец,
And
блядь.
down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Не, вообще, вот, если серьезно, если ты не можешь знакомиться с девушками, вот попробуй просто это сделать как вот через силу. Потому что, поверь, тебе тебе, блядь, 1000 может девушек сказать, типа, бро, у меня нет времени. И поэтому, если ты будешь на этой хуйне сильно концентрироваться, а потом тебе когда-нибудь одна забородит, тебя эта хуйня, ну как бы, еще дальше отодвинет, блядь, назад. То есть, постарайся просто на морозе знакомиться. Ну, как... Вот подошел, тебе понравилась девушка, просто подошел, сказал, девушка, ну там, хочу с вами пообщаться. Тебе, я тебе клянусь, тебе 1000 скажут, бро, good luck, have fun. Поэтому, если ты, ну, вот, будешь думать так, что, ой, блядь, я подойду, а не подойду, блядь, а вот там, что-то там, а что она мне скажет, тра-та-та. Да тебя пошлют нахуй, как правило, 99%. Но я думаю, что это если ты урод. Сори, что готанул. Ну, за правду, так сказать, не этот. Правда, она такая, что глаза, как бы, да, может неприятно быть. Но, если ты нормальный, причем здесь жжётым, блядь? Да не, ладно, не будем тушить. Бывает всякое. Пробуй, пытайся. Пытайся. Но хотя, ты знаешь, это палка о двух концах. Вот я тебе сейчас даю советы, да? А ты найдешь себе вторую половинку, и ты перестанешь стримы смотреть, донатить. Нахуй оно тебе надо? Сиди тут, блядь. Не рыпайся, заебал. Короче. Да.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real
Если
one.
девушка тоже мне будет донатить, а есть так, что меня смотрят парами. Я знаю, что ну, некоторые там подписчики, да, ну или зрители, парами смотрят меня, я это знаю. Ну, это уже другой разговор, конечно. Счастья им на всю жизнь. Счастья, доброты, добра, добро. Доброта, добро на всю жизнь таким парам. Да. Ну, а кто не так живет, это на всю жизнь. Это на всю жизнь жить непонятно кем.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's
Это
slowly killing
бесполезное
himself.
существование.
But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see.
Потому что я
Maybe
не
this
договорила.
time.
Знаете, мем есть.
And
Я
I
не
tried
договорила,
again.
и бабка там
And
цунами
Stanley pushed
ебашит,
the button.
такая бабка
And I tried again.
из-под этого,
Stanley
из-под
pushed the
доски,
button.
нахуй, под серфинга,
tried-
блядь. Я не договорил. Потому что шо, вы наебетесь, вы сюда придете все равно обратно, но вы мне нахуй уже использованы. Не... Ладно. Было красиво. Шутка удалась. Красиво.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see, we went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change?
Ой, блядь,
Stanley,
вот это
did you change
истерика.
anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story. I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Да, походу, да, блядь, Ветас. Так я сейчас играл как по кайфу, хули он меня обратно вернул, блядь. Ты следишь за тем, что происходит на экране, матрешка?
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Не понял. Что это значит?
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations!
Я
I know you
перепрохожу
put in a lot of hard work, and
по
it really
новой.
paid off. So, good job.
Я,
Oh,
ебать,
no.
я
No,
начал,
I don't
блядь,
feel
с
right
этого.
about this at all.
И
We
он
both
меня
know
сейчас
you didn't
опять
put in any
пустит в
actual
комнату,
work for
блядь,
that win.
где,
Some people
которую
win
я
fair and
буду
square,
смотреть,
and this was
где
not one of
это,
those
сколько раз
situations.
перезапустится
Okay?
игра,
I'm getting weirded
должна.
out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
Прикинь,
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't
Тут
get
и
lost,
смысл в том,
I've
чтобы
employed the help
перепроходить.
of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line.
Тут нету
Just follow
никакого в
the
этом
line.
смысла,
How simple
ебать.
is that?
Бля, вы не
You see,
смотрите нахуй
the
то, что
line knows where
происходит
the
на
story
мониторе,
is.
походу,
It's over
пиздец.
in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny.
Причем здесь концовки разные, и то, что если ты, блядь, проходишь и в какой-то момент делаешь действия повторяющиеся, тебя отбрасывают нахуй на начало игры. Какое это имеет, блядь, какое это имеет нахуй сходство, блядь, с тем, что ты просто должен можешь игру на разные концовки пройти.
Here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via...
Вы на полном серьезе не появляете, не понимаете, блядь, связи, блядь, разных концовок игры, и то, что ты можешь где-то залупнуться до 8-го перезапуска, и ты опять начнешь нахуй сначала? Это, блядь,
and the very
это одно и то
manifestation
же?
of the nature of life itself. Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood. Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that phone.
Ну, я понимаю, что это задумка игры,
We're
блядь.
back at the office?
Но это, блядь...
No.
Я думал сначала... Так можно просто выйти в главное меню и начать заново, разве нет? Не, ты не понял. Ну, типа... Как бы... Я подумал, что эта игра как Layers of Fear, блядь. Типа, ты идешь и то есть, выбираешь как бы движение, действие.
Line, you do know we're looking for the...
Ну, например, в Layers of Fear, если ты зашел, блядь, не в ту дверь, тебя нахуй не дропает. Не дропает на начало
Stanley
игры.
Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. This all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Просто тут есть такие моменты, например, как это, где тебя дропает начало, и уже все это да, и это как бы, блядь, ну, сценарий игры, ну, проходишь, бла-бла-бла, по накатанной. Но вот в моем случае, блядь, это просто, ну, дроп тебя на начало. Если так запланировано, то окей. Я просто думал, что это как
Just
Layers
me
of
and
Fear.
Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Нет. Смотри, Ветас. Ты имеешь в виду, что типа если ты тут, ну, смотря что ты имеешь под триггером, но здесь есть такой триггер, который тебя типа на концовку другую выводит, а есть триггер, блядь, который тебя просто на начало игры дропает на старт. Понял?
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine. Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits. Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I
Так,
don't want it to
подождите,
be.
стоп. Это
I
я,
don't want the game
получается,
to keep
прошел на одну из
restarting. I don't want
концовок?
to forget what's going on.
Я
I don't want to
правильно
be trapped
понял?
like this.
Два
I
раза
won't
одинаковые,
restart the
блядь.
game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay.
Здорово, Дэн.
I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination, so I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
А, ебать мой хуй.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Манус, ну, достаточно, да.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. he stepped into the newly opened passageway. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Интересная игра, ну такая неплохая. Головоломка, типа хуй поймешь, я не знаю, как она называется правильно. Жанр этот.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Здесь ничего не отключается? Окей.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or
Что-то
how
мне
to
это
feel.
напоминает.
Whatever life he lives, it will be his.
Игра, помните,
was
где
all he
кот
needed to
бегает, там
know.
концовка тоже
It was
какая-то
perhaps
такого плана.
the only thing worth knowing.
Помните, мужики?
Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin,
Да, да.
the feeling of
Ну, тоже
liberation,
там конец
the
это, да, вот
immense
опускается.
possibility of the
Это...
new path
Ну,
before
кто играл,
him.
понял, о чем я говорю.
This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Короче, грубо говоря, я 2 концовки, да, прошел? Я понял. Ты же в Stray играл? Ну, я ее прошел. Не играл, я прошел ее. Сейчас этот... Сейчас я подойду, мужики. Димон, я 1 из 4 еблана.
Здарова, стул. Как твои дела? Дед в тебя пропердел всю доту.
Сори, я этот... по телефону пиздел. Игорек, спасибо. Да вот играю уже, 2 концовки прошел этой игры. Фафик, привет. Геморрой у тебя, дружище, знаешь
Сука,
почему?
блядь,
Потому что ты
сосок
жопу
ебаный.
картоном
Ну,
вытираешь.
бывает всякое, нахуй.
Если не выходить из комнаты, концовка будет тоже. Мне всего 20 концовок. Да мне уже написали. Как у тебя дела, Фафик? А! Кстати, в донат не расслышал. Передонатьте, что там было, не расслышал. Извиняюсь за чихи. Сколько по времени нужно не выходить? Долго? Здорово, Сама. Надо кое-что сделать. Ну. потихоньку, да? Чё-то тебя работает много сейчас, а туда вообще редко на стрим заходишь. Насколько я знаю,
Пока смотрю, нихуя
тут ты
непонятно
можешь либо
вообще
слушать,
ничего.
либо нет. Насколько я знаю, тут... Бля, бро, я в нее играю уже час. Ну как ты думаешь, я догадался это или нет?
Ти-ли-ли-ли-ли-ли-ли-ли! Би-би-би-би-би-би-би-би-би!
Работаем, ну? Понял тебя. Бля, какая-то наебка про посидеть в комнате, бля, чистой воды.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin,
Что
the
может быть
press of the
лучше,
mattress on
чем
his back,
зайти на Twitch и увидеть
the
Феникса
fresh air of a
онлайн? Ты
world
что, не
outside
знаешь,
this
что ли?
one?
Засубскрайбься нахуй.
Let
Зайти,
me
увидеть
wake up,
онлайн и
he thought to
засубскрайбиться.
himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish
Спасибо
it
большое,
to be
Казамон, за
over.
ресап.
Let me go back to my job.
Благодарю тебя.
Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Да он шутит, бля, бро. Что это за лифт, ебать?
Stepping in. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a sign of hope for Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although this keypad guarded the terrible secret of Stanley's past, it had been assigned a 4-digit code so devious and so random that no man could ever hope to guess it. 2845. Statistically, nearly impossible to guess blindly, ever.
Какой был код, блядь? Какой был
Stanley
код?
just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Я знаю, что 4-5. Почему он зелен? Почему он зеленым мигал мне, блядь, до этого?
2845.
Да не заеб.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
бля, мы ж уже были тут, да, получается? Или как, я тут пойму.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word Escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death. As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ну, забавная игра. Ха-ха. Мгм. Не выключай, сейчас серваки в алфу падут. Then концовка. Ой, тут бродить, блядь. Свобода это... Реализация концовки свободы из альфа-версии. Из бета-версии. Ну, я так понимаю, тут так и это, ну, это так задумано, Кацак. То есть вся игра, она такая.
Jumped in the river. Let's see. Stanley walked through the green door. Stanley stood on the roof.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Окей.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
А?
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Ты понял, что это за концовка? Нет, не понял.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do
Let's do it.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if the... Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Новый контент, погнали.
Is that it? Surely
Бля,
that's not
кайф,
all the
чтобы
new
реально
content.
дополнение
There has to be
продавали
something
какой-нибудь
else, right?
тысячи за 2 рублей, и ты просто в такую комнату заходишь, прыгаешь 20 раз, блядь. И все.
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the
Insane,
whole
да,
dictionary. There's
in-game
20
DLC.
hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend? Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something! Oh. You don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dork anyway, so who cares? Oh, never mind. You're not a dork.
Бля, прикольная хуйня. Не, мне нравится, как тут. Как тут эти все штуки.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste. And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now, a lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content. Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories. These were simpler times, Stanley, but I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the Memory Zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Прикольная тема, мне нравится.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Что там за ревью? Вверх ногами. Вверх ногами, блядь. Со знаком, с большим пальцем вверх, блядь.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Stanley Parable называется. Чё, обратно можно пойти в эту темноту ебаную? Не хочу.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly, and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are, or were, or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your Greek gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made, in fact, make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices, and that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. See, now you've gotten me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look, I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works. Perhaps that would have been the smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after seeing this exciting new technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will instantly run out and implement a new feature to make it possible to edit one's review, merely because of this very situation. Yes, I think that's quite likely. Or perhaps they'll simply grant this particular user the ability to change their review, so that the feature is not widely abused. Look, I would even be okay with Steam altering this particular review so that it reads as something more... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait, how do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button, to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times, and there's no door, Stanley. There's no... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back! Oh my goodness, I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks? I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here, not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking, and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Not the outcomes, not the story. None of that matters anymore. I'll give it all up. I'll give up every branching path. I'll burn my story to the ground. One single thing I need, and God, I can see now that I need it more than anything, is to know that someone else is taking it in. These words that I'm saying, I need to know you can hear me. Because maybe, Stanley, maybe, if you can hear me, then maybe it means I'm real.
Митя, живи,
Maybe
Митечка.
I'm not just a fiction. Was I scared of that all along? Perhaps. Yes. Perhaps I've been scared this whole time, that if I stop speaking, I'll slip backwards into the silence and be consumed by it. I can't be taken by it, Stanley. I can't lose myself in the stretch of emptiness between you and me. When you press that button, you're still right there, but I know you're so tremendously far away. And in those moments, the emptiness folds itself outward in between the two of us, and I am suspended in its unyielding quietness. I can feel the edges of my reality curdling inward and decaying. I can tell that I am becoming less and less real. Yet to speak to you now, I am alive. I am truly and completely here. I am a being. I am someone. I am something. I am being listened to. I am being recognized. The emptiness between us has collapsed, and I feel right now like I am not a work of fiction. I feel as though I occupy space in this world again, and I have cast a shadow onto the wall. You see what I'm saying, don't you? You can see what this means to me. I'm so clear about it now, Stanley. I feel as certain about this as I've ever felt about anything at all. I feel renewed I feel restored, and already I can sense the looming silence as you will press the button for the next time. What a terrible dread it strokes in my heart to think of it, to think of returning to such coldness. Come, let us sit in silence together here for just a moment. Let us anticipate it. Let us welcome it. Let us not run from it. Oh, hello, it's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously. I was consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revelation for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have squabbled over for so long. There could be no one ending, no singular outcome of events, not if all events existed in the same moment, and I felt freed. I felt unburdened by the need to manifest a particular outcome into being. I saw that I could allow myself to exist along all timelines, and that each of them was simply a strand in the web of my being. It was incredible, the spaciousness, the equanimity of the moment, both singular and infinite. For the longest time, this was my experience. And then this moment passed, and the most unyielding fear I have ever known crept into my mind. And it is this sensation that I have been
Кек.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, "Entertain us." It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, "Oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place," while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging
Там,
every
короче, у
fleeting whim for
скелетов,
no
блядь,
reason
тяжелая
other than
броня,
to
по
do
ней
so?
проходит,
Yes!
блядь, урон
Yes!
получается от
It seems that this is
нормальных
now the
атак,
world
блядь.
we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment,
Да-да.
we have... The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
Разъебано. О. Когда оставил, когда не доел помидор, блядь, я оставил его тарелку на шкафу, блядь. Тарелка на шкафу. Жиза, блядь, да, нахуй, жиза. Ты шо, кнопочка, бля? О. Вот это я понимаю, концовочка, блядь. Сейчас я буду ходить по всем пустыням. Что тут трясется, ебать, все. Или это у меня мышка трясется, блин. Лол.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Так мы же тут были уже. Или new content, new content.
Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
А, я понял. Сейчас там есть куда идти, да, базара нет.
You see, Stanley,
Так,
I've been
слышишь,
reflecting on the Stanley
Аматерасу,
parable
у неё
and about
есть
how
вот
roundly disappointing his
конец,
ultra-deluxe
конец,
version has
нет.
turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a
Вот
landmark,
конец,
and
именно
any new
конец
content for
существует.
it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
А, нет. Чё ебать, а?
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Новые фичи. Нет, ты не поймешь, короче, когда все пройдешь. Охуенная игра. The button that
For the
says
Stanley
the name of
Parable
the
2,
player that
I
is
asked
playing the
myself,
game.
what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first edition... Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to... Jim. Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
Didn't read, lol.
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable 2. They would appreciate what I've created here. Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life. God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable... Oh, goodness, Stanley, this is fairly awkward. I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to the bucket exhibit. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves the bucket. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the bucket, okay? All right, I'll get out of your hair now. Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen. What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet? Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is. Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
Не убрали эту хуйню?
No? You're just going to ignore my advice? Fine. No fun new content for you then. You're the one who spent money on this game. So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? It coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Такую хуйню, блядь. Это шо? Прикол, блядь, какой-то. Чё это за за хуйня? Лол, блядь. Почему стример не развлекает? Да, блядь, куда развлекать, блядь? Прикольчик дня, ты видел какой? Хочется плакать, блядь. Бля. Аня, привет. Доброе утро. В смысле играть? Так это что, ебать, не игра, что ли? Игорь, ты видишь, сколько стрим идет уже? Я не пойму, это реально, блядь, это Эматерацу, бля, поясни мне, это начинается вторая часть или это прикол? Не заплатили на вторую часть, офай. Когда будет стрим, блядь? Ну я, получается, прошел первую часть, правильно? Получается так. Получается так, да. Я просто хуй пойму, честно говоря. Ой-ой-ой-шеньки, ой-ой-ой-ой-очки, блядь. Я не
На
понимаю.
Stanley Parable 2.
Не, это не считается. Трешка Stanley Parable 2. Это даже не смешно. На этом стриме не пройдет обман. Денег моя булочка сама себе не купит, согласен. Это виповское у тебя мышление, браток. Ну чат, это я прошел игру, получается, первую часть или не прошел? Он мне говорит, ты прошел, молодец, Митя, вторую часть. Но вторую часть не оплатили. Контрприкол от стрима. В смысле нет, блядь? В смысле нет, блядь? Ну все, нету первой части. Даже нету настроечек по первой части, блядь. Чат. Ну не хамите, блядь. Ну даже настроечек нету. Вторая новая игра. Ура! Новая игра. Ура! Контрпричем. Ну если прошел, значит прошел. В чем проблема? Титры были? Бля, там человек запретки пишет. Я его отстраню на 10 минут. Не надо, ты на Твиче. Запретки не надо. Сука, я уже... Я уже подваренный под утро, бля, пиздец. Ай, блядь. Сука. Ай, блядь. Ты прав, дропы. О! Вот это я понимаю, согласен.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 4.
А, что это?
Employee.
Да, Розум. Серьезно, блядь?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
А, блядь,
had
так у
sent
меня
him
нету
memo.
второй части. И поэтому он мне обратно нахуй на старт первой, блядь, кидает. Ебать. Что может быть лучше, чем зайти на Twitch и увидеть Феникса онлайн? Ты что, не знаешь, что ли? Засубскрайбиться, нахуй. Зайти, увидеть онлайн и засубскрайбиться. Стас, здорово, спасибо большое. Шо это, блядь? Че за хуйня?
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Ебать, это троллинг?
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly
это
the
за
Stanley
хуйня?
Parable
Мне не
2 is
нравится,
going to
блядь.
be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can
Да как
loosely organize
зацикл,
a
ебать,
handful of
если он мне
interesting
говорит,
concepts,
блядь,
that surely
меня
the game will sort
выкидывает
of
и
naturally
Let's Try
spring up
ну,
around
вторую
them.
часть.
It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Я рот его ебал, какого хуя опять по второму кругу то же самое, бля, прохожу.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2. Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Ебал я в рот это ведро, он меня к этому ведру, блядь, отправлял с самого начала, нахуй, я не пошел, блядь, но я его зачем-то, блядь, сейчас это сделал.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement. All right, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now? So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my
Проверь,
soul.
малой, для начала
It's going
работает
to
ли
work.
доната или
There's
нет
definitely a
долгинником,
good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange
потом
these
мы уже
new
с тобой
features
будем
together,
разговаривать
and
дальше.
we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay
Проведра на
experience.
голову.
Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Ура!
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they
А она как-то сиквел на паузе. Я понял.
don't add
ну
up to
ладно.
anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and
Хуй
simply...
знает, тут...
well,
Ну, получается,
insert a
что,
few of my new
получается, я
features into it.
в тупике,
Tastefully,
ёбаный
of
хули. Я в
course,
первой
with
части, блядь,
respect,
концовок
with
5
care for the
открыл, и
vision
здесь,
and
блядь, одну или
integrity of
две,
the
хуй
original
пойму.
game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But
Да?
it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising
Я хуй пойму,
conviction,
просто, блядь.
this is the Stanley Parable 2. me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Игру только за рубли можно заказать. Бля, бро, да просто... Да просто это, Джефф, оно же... Я не могу снять деньги, если ты подписками хочешь, с Твича, понял? Потому. А у тебя не работает, да, алерт? А, в смысле, а что это значит? Телеграм токены. Назло родным, как говорится, да? Мунлайт. Не, что ты имеешь в виду? Ну ты в Donation Alert, если можешь донатить, это, ну, какая разница, рубли, евро или там зайчики? Не, так, бро, это нормально, это... Бля, я не понял, что ты имел в виду. Я подумал... Купон. Не, просто у меня хотели мне заказать игру этими подписками на Твиче, понял? Ну кто-то не мог оплатить алерт. Я говорю, бля, ну как бы... Я не знаю, как эти бабки вообще, когда ими можно будет пользоваться. Единственный шанс снять деньги, которые на Твиче, это ВНЖ делать другой страны. Поэтому, как бы, блядь, такое. Пожилой зайчик на связи, блядь. Ой, блядь, я рот его ебал. Давайте я last try замучу. И думаю, что... Потому что я хуй знаю, что еще тут делать, блядь.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Накопилось
Stanley worked for a
подписок,
company in a big
подписок
building
бабок, ради
where he
которых
was
ВНЖ делать.
employee number 427.
как
Employee
миллион
number
будет тогда.
427's job was simple. He
Дорога
sat at
будет.
his desk in room 427.
Ха-ха, миллион. Так чисто кинул на дурачка. Загорелись, нет? За 10 секунд. Кто-нибудь. Бля, сказали, тут можно... Тут тоже какая-то концовка есть. Давайте сидеть, смотреть ее. Бля, ну вот ты можешь себе представить, Зонг? Чё, прям тут и будем смотреть, ждать, Стэнни, здорово. Так говорят, какая-то концовка должна быть, надо сидеть. Короче, представь, это, чтобы получить ВНЖ, это надо, ну, сколько-то там жить. Месяцев, блядь, да? Я не знаю, сейчас в разных странах, наверное, по-разному. Где вообще реально какая-нибудь Турция, я не знаю, сейчас дают или нет. Но последнее то, что я слышал, нет, у них кончились эти для иностранцев квоты. Где там еще сейчас можно? $50 000? Ну, $50 000 это сколько денег сейчас? Почти 4,5 миллиона рублей. Ну, это нормальные деньги. За 4,5 ляма рублей, я думаю, можно. ВНЖ в Турцию получить, это квартиру снять? А ты живешь сейчас в Турции? Ну вот, у меня сестра живет уже 1,5 года в Турции. Им вот последний раз продлили на 3 месяца. Они на 2 года, по сути, жилье снимали. А ее подруга хотела, точнее нет, у ее мужа, ну, работает с ним коллега, короче, он хотел получить ВНЖ, ему не дали. Он тоже, ну, он тоже снял, точнее, и ему не продлили вот так. А снял он на год и не продлили. Так что, бро, твои знания, они как бы, блядь, такое. Каждый случай, он индивидуальный. Уверен, что контент будет в этой комнате? Ну, кто-то писал в чате. Наверняка обходы есть, жениться на бабке из Италии. Давай замутим, Зонх. Директор, приветствую. Я жил в Турции, не дают сейчас ВНЖ. Но сейчас почти никому не продлили из моих знакомых и не дают. Но я про это и говорю. Просто мне сестра сказала, что у них кончились квоты для иностранцев. Не для русских конкретно, а вообще для всех иностранцев. А таким приветствую.
Ой-ой-ой, блядь, что я увидел, блядь?
Stanley Parable 3.
Так его не существует же, ебать. А он случай... это просто дана, это просто убрать эту грязь, эту, которую до него кинули. Это просто взяли, убрали эти цифры, это некрасивое, то, что было. Мне тоже не нравилось. Ну что поделать. Проверка полтинник. Да, Летов. Спасибо за то, что полтинником проверили. Спасибо. Нихуя не работает, короче. Погнали.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the
закрыть надо было
pressure.
дверь.
What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
И шо, ебать? Это другой разговор.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Не, я не пойду туда. Ну его нахуй. Что тут написано? Блять, тут вообще... ясно. Кого не заметил?
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Я не хочу уже идти в летолево, блядь.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Ебать. Ну это, бля, короче, ладно, иди нахуй, начальник офиса, бля.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember,
really?
no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Блять, что это за издевательство надо мной, нахуй? Опять заново?
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Блядь, это пиздец. Сука.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
А, тут две кнопки было, по-моему, да. Я помню, блядь, здесь две кнопки.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power,
Я
but at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Чат, кто ты?
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Ой, блядь, это пиздец. Пощадите меня, чат. Это ультра делюкс, да. Это ультра делюкс версия, блядь. Блять, ну как тут играть, чтобы, блядь, что-то дальше пройти? Я уже хуй понимаю, где тут я ходил, где не ходил, блядь.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
Потыкай во все включенные компы.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and... The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Ой, бля. Давайте я на этом моменте стопну, мужики. Я просто уже, блядь, подустал, честно говоря. Ой, блядь. Пиздец. Бля, ну забавная игра, хуй его знает. Я думаю, что я бы чуть лучше проникся, если бы я начинал бы играть с нее. Сколько уже играю? 3-й час. Ну, уже часа 3, короче. Ай, блядь, не. Да, я бы постримил, просто я устал еще. Я устал уже еще, говорю. Я, получается, 9 часов уже стримлю. Я еще хотел, думал, чуть позже на бусте, но я сейчас пойду пожру и этот... В душ мне принять надо. Если у меня сил хватит, я запущу фильм посмотреть какой-нибудь один короткий. Просто... Устал. Да, я 9 часов стримлю, блядь. 8:52. Не играл. Слышите, короче, мужики, я пойду приму душ, поем. Если у меня через час хватит сил, я запущу на бусте. Если нет, то я уже ночью завтра запущу. Высплюсь нормально. Спасибо всем огромное, кто меня сегодня смотрел, поддерживал. На ТГ подписывайтесь, не забывайте. И кто хочет меня поддержать, подписывайтесь на бусти. Я там регулярно стримлю тоже. Спасибо еще раз всем. Хорошего дня. Поросенок ебаный. Тупорылый. Ласпикчуский. Давайте до next стрима. Пока. Я пойду отдыхать. Чтоб не сдохнуть. Начать игру заново. Да я жопу ебал эту игру. Гля, в Stanley Parable как 2, ебать она, охуеть. Но ее как бы, ее даже в Steam. Геморрой у тебя, дружище, знаешь почему? Потому что ты жопу картоном вытираешь.